U.S. intelligence officials warn China is working hard to be able to take over Taiwan militarily. Director of National Intelligence Avery Haynes testifies about worldwide threats during a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., May 10, 2022. Washington, CNN. The U.S. intelligence community believes that China is actively attempting to build a military capable of taking over China, even in the face of U.S. support for the island. Top U.S. intelligence officials told Congress Tuesday. The threat to Taiwan between now and 2030 is acute, Director of National Intelligence Avery Haynes said during a hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee. It's our view that China is working hard to effectively put themselves into a position in which their military is capable of taking China over our intervention, Haynes said, declining to publicly provide further details on the intelligence community's timeline. But she and Defense Intelligence Agency head General Scott Beria cautioned the U.S. doesn't yet know what lessons Chinese President Xi Jinping will take from Russia's war in Ukraine and the Western assistance that has flowed to Kiev. How Xi and the Chinese Communist Party interpret the event of that crisis could impact its timeline and approach to Taiwan, the two officials said. Haynes and Beria also noted that the U.S. believes that China would prefer to avoid a military conflict over Taiwan if possible. I believe the People's Republic of China would rather not do it by force, Beria said. I think they would rather do this peacefully over time. Taiwan is also learning some important lessons from the Ukraine conflict that may better enable to defend against China, Beria added. There are some things that we can do with Taiwan, he said. I think they are learning some very interesting lessons from the Ukrainian conflict, like how important leadership is, how important small unit tactics are, how important a non-commissioned officer corps is, and really effective training with the right weapon systems, and what those systems with the right people would be able to do toward that. On Saturday, CIA Director Bill Burns also said that Russia's conflict in Ukraine has affected China's calculations when it comes to how and when it goes about attempting to take control of Taiwan. Clearly, the Chinese leadership is trying to look carefully about the lessons they should draw from Ukraine about their own ambitions in Taiwan, Burns said. I don't think for a minute it's eroded Xi's determination over time to gain control over Taiwan, but I think it's something that's affecting their calculation about how and when they go about doing that, he added. Taiwan is a self-governing island democracy that China claims is part of its territory and has not ruled out the use of force for reunification. Beijing has been pressuring Taiwan militarily, including holding a military drill east of Iceland over the weekend and flying warplanes into its air defense identification zone this past week. Under the One China policy, the U.S. acknowledges China's claim of sovereignty over Taiwan. But U.S. arms sales to Taiwan for its self-defense, and President Joe Biden's and other U.S. officials' vocal support for the island has been source of tension between the U.S. and China. In January, China's ambassador to Washington warned in the interview with NPR that if Taiwanese authorities emboldened by the United States keep going down the road for independence, it most likely will involve China and the United States in a military conflict. The New York Times reported Saturday that Biden administration is quietly pushing the Taiwanese government to order American-made weapons such as missiles and smaller arms for asymmetric warfare. It believes they would be better suited to defend against invasion by China. A U.S. State Department spokesperson said Monday that bolstering Taiwan's self-defense is an urgent task, and the most effective approach to doing so is through investigating asymmetric capabilities that are credible, resilient, mobile, distributed, and cost-effective. The spokesperson said this assessment has been reflected by members of the Biden administration, many credible experts, as well as Taiwan itself. Continuing to pursue systems that will not meaningfully contribute to the effective defense strategy is inconsistent with the evolving security threat that Taiwan faces, the spokesperson said. As such, the United States strongly supports Taiwan's effort to implement an asymmetric defense strategy. They noticed that the U.S. defense relationship with Taiwan remains based on the assessment of Taiwan's defense needs and the threat posed by the People's Republic of China. As Admiral Aquilino noted in his March testimony, unification with Taiwan is among the PRC's top priorities. The scale and sophistication of People's Liberation Armies training around Taiwan has drastically increased, and Beijing has intensified its multifaceted pressure on Taiwan, they said, referencing the head of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, John Aquilino. Consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act, the United States makes available to Taiwan defense articles and services necessary to enable to maintain a sufficient self-defense capability, the spokesperson said. Since 2017, the executive branch has notified the Congress of over $18 billion in arms sales to Taiwan. They continued. The United States swift provision of Taiwan defensive weaponry and sustainment by a foreign military sale called FMS and direct commercial sale called DCS is essential for Taiwan's security, and we will continue to work with industry to support that goal. For decades, the U.S. One-China policy has been guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 U.S.-China Joint Communique, and the 6 assurances, the spokesperson noted. We argue Beijing is to cease its military, diplomatic, and economic pressure against Taiwan and instead engage in meaningful dialogue with Taiwan, they said. The United States will continue to support a peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues consistent with the wishes and best interests of Taiwan's people. CNN's Wayne Chang contributed to this report.